Alice was walking home from work on a cold evening. The sun was going down, and the sky was painted with colors of orange and purple. She felt tired, but also happy because tomorrow was Saturday. As she walked slowly, she heard a soft sound. It was not a car, not a bird, and not the wind. It was something else. She stopped and looked around. On the corner of the street, there was a small box, and from inside the box came the sound of a little cry. Alice's heart started to beat faster. She walked closer and saw a tiny puppy looking at her with big brown eyes. The puppy was shaking and looked hungry. Alice did not plan to take a puppy home. Her apartment was small, and she lived alone, but she could not leave the puppy in the cold. She bent down and said softly, "Hello, little one. Are you lost?" The puppy wagged its tail just a little. She smiled and picked it up. The puppy was warm in her arms, and it made her heart feel warm too. She decided to take it home, at least for one night. When Alice reached her apartment, she placed the puppy on the floor. It started to explore, walking slowly with its little paws. It sniffed the couch, the chair, and then looked at Alice again. She laughed and said, "You are curious, aren't you?" The puppy barked once, as if to answer. Alice opened the fridge and found some milk and bread. She put a small plate of milk on the floor. The puppy drank quickly and licked the plate clean. Watching the puppy made Alice smile. It had been a long time since she had felt this kind of happiness. That night, Alice made a small bed for the puppy using a blanket and a pillow. She placed it next to her own bed. When she turned off the lights, she heard the puppy breathing softly. She whispered, "Good night, little one," and closed her eyes. But she could not sleep immediately. She kept thinking about how strange and wonderful it was that life had placed this small animal in her path. It felt like fate, like something magical. The next morning, Alice woke up and found the puppy sitting on the blanket, looking at her with shiny eyes. "Good morning," she said with a laugh. She gave it a name, Lucky, because she felt lucky to have found him, and maybe he felt lucky too. Alice took Lucky outside for a walk. The streets were quiet, and the air was fresh. People who passed by smiled when they saw the little puppy. Some even stopped to say, "Oh, he is so cute." Alice felt proud, as if Lucky was already part of her life. As days passed, Alice and Lucky became inseparable. She taught him small things: how to sit, how to wait, and how to follow her. Lucky was quick to learn because he wanted to please her. Every time he did something right, she gave him a small treat and a big hug. He wagged his tail so much that sometimes he almost lost his balance. Alice laughed every time, and her apartment was now full of joy and noise. One evening, while she was reading a book on the couch, Lucky jumped next to her and placed his head on her lap. She stroked his soft fur and thought about her life before him. It had been quiet, maybe too quiet. She worked, ate, slept, and repeated the same routine every day. But now, with Lucky, everything felt brighter. Even simple things like walking in the park or cooking dinner were more enjoyable. She realized that sometimes happiness comes from the smallest surprises. But one day, something unexpected happened. Alice saw a poster on a streetlight. On the poster, there was a photo of a puppy that looked exactly like Lucky. The words said, "Lost puppy. Please call if found." Her heart stopped for a moment. She felt fear, sadness, and confusion all at once. Was Lucky someone else's puppy? Did someone out there miss him very much? She looked down at Lucky, who was wagging his tail and looking at her with those same big brown eyes. She felt torn between doing the right thing and keeping the happiness she had found. That night, she could not sleep. She lay in bed, listening to Lucky's breathing, and asked herself many questions. Should she call the number? What if the person was not kind to him? What if Lucky had been abandoned and the poster was old? But what if the family was really looking for him, crying every day, missing their little friend? Alice closed her eyes and whispered, "What should I do, Lucky?" But of course, Lucky did not answer. The next morning, Alice looked at Lucky while he was eating his food. He looked happy, his tail wagging fast, his eyes full of love. She sighed deeply. She knew she had to make a decision soon. The poster on the streetlight was still in her mind. She wanted to keep Lucky forever, but she also wanted to do the right thing. She took her phone and held it in her hand for a long time. Her fingers almost touched the numbers, but she stopped. She needed more time. Alice decided to go for a longer walk with Lucky to clear her thoughts. They went to the park. Lucky ran on the grass, chasing small birds, jumping happily. Alice sat on a bench watching him. She thought about her life before him. The silence, the loneliness, the routine that felt so empty. Then she thought about the last days with Lucky. Laughter, energy, love. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Please, let me keep him." While she was lost in her thoughts, a little girl came running into the park with her mother behind her. The girl was holding a paper in her hand. When she saw Lucky, she stopped suddenly and her eyes grew wide. "Mom, Mom, that's him, that's our puppy," she shouted. Alice froze. Her heart felt like it was breaking. The mother came closer, breathing fast, and looked at Lucky. She pulled out the same poster Alice had seen. The photo was identical. Alice picked up Lucky, holding him close to her chest. "Is this your puppy?" she asked softly, her voice shaking. The little girl nodded quickly, tears in her eyes. "Yes, his name is Max. We lost him 2 weeks ago. We were so sad. We thought we would never see him again." The mother smiled, but also looked emotional. "We are so grateful you found him." Alice felt her throat close. She looked down at Lucky, or Max, and he looked back at her with innocent eyes. He didn't know what was happening. She kissed his head and whispered, "I love you, little one." With heavy steps, she placed him in the girl's arms. The girl hugged him tightly, crying with happiness. Lucky licked her face and wagged his tail. It was clear he remembered them. Alice's heart broke even more, but at the same time, she felt peace. She knew she had done the right thing. The mother thanked Alice again and again. "You are a kind person," she said. "Most people would have kept him, but you gave him back. Thank you for your honesty." Alice smiled sadly. "He gave me so much joy in such a short time. I will miss him, but I know he belongs with you." They hugged quickly, and then the little girl and her mother walked away, Lucky in their arms, disappearing slowly down the park path. Alice sat back on the bench, alone again. She looked at the grass where Lucky had been running minutes ago. Tears filled her eyes. She whispered, "Goodbye, Lucky," or "Max, be happy." The silence felt heavy, but deep in her heart, she also felt something warm. She had given happiness back to someone else, and that was a kind of love too. The days after that were hard for Alice. Her apartment was quiet again. No barking, no little paws running, no laughter. But she also felt proud of her decision. She had learned something important. Love is not only about holding on. Sometimes love is about letting go. She started to go to the park more often, sitting on the bench, reading books, and watching other people with their dogs. She smiled when she remembered Lucky. One afternoon, while she was sitting in the park, she heard a soft bark. She looked up and saw the little girl running toward her with Lucky in her arms. "We wanted to visit you," the girl said happily. Lucky jumped into Alice's lap, licking her face and wagging his tail. Alice laughed and hugged him tightly. The mother walked behind them, smiling. "We live close by," she explained. "If you want, you can visit Max anytime. He loves you too." Alice's eyes filled with tears of joy. She realized she hadn't lost Lucky forever. She had gained new friends, and Lucky would still be part of her life. Maybe not every day, but enough to keep her heart full. She felt grateful, not just for the puppy, but for the lesson he brought into her life. Sometimes destiny brings people and animals together for a reason. From that day, Alice often visited Max, playing with him, walking together with the little girl and her mother. Her days became brighter again, full of laughter, warmth, and love. And deep inside, she knew this story was only the beginning of many more beautiful moments. Now tell me, which city are you from? Don't forget to follow the channel, give your like, and share this video with a friend. See you in the next video with English Stories with Sophia.